welcome to the Weed Out, where we weed out the bullshit and talk about the nonsense happening in our backyard. I'm Spencer Fox Peterson with my co-host Laura Saylor. Joanna is off this week, as we mentioned in previous episodes. We're going to be rotating in different guests, different hosts as co-hosts. Sometimes it'll be Joanna, and others, we're going to be mixing it up. So some of y'all may remember Laura Saylor. Laura, welcome back to the Weed Out.
I love being back.
Glad you're in the co-pilot seat today. How does it?
I was excited when you reached out and asked.
Yeah, we figure, like-minded people that have some organizing or journalistic background or whatever, we want to share the platform, because this isn't the Joanna and Spencer show. It is about our collective workers' power and, how to get information across without using corporate media.
Yeah.
And it has to be in a million different, it's like paper cuts, right? Like, obviously the Weed Out can be suppressed because we have to rely on big tech to host and platform the podcast. But the diversity of tactics, like we see, TikTok might be going away, but places like TikTok heavily censor and heavily abuse the moderation. Instagram is unusable. It's just an ad space. So trying to keep it, I know everybody likes to use those apps, so we're trying to offer a different platform. So having guest hosts on is how we're going to kind of achieve that. And everybody's got a different point of view. Important thing is we all have values that align. And, the other good thing is Joanna and I, we agree a lot. So maybe having some new people on to spice it up is probably a good thing. Doesn't mean we wouldn't have somebody on we morally disagree with, but maybe there's a take that we disagree with, or a point of view that we don't necessarily see. So really excited to go into this chapter of the Weed Out, and thank you, Laura, for being guinea pig numero dos after Akil Vicks last week with Congressman McGovern.
I know. I am honored to be here.
And as always, you can go to the website www.theweedout.com. It has all the links that we mentioned in the show. And you can find us on most podcast players except for Spotify. You can always just go to the link tree in our social media feeds, the Weed Out or the Weed Out 413. Either one of those will come up depending on the platform. Twitter is the Weed Out, Instagram is the Weed Out 413. So regardless, we're happy to have everybody listening. Thank you so much for supporting the Weed Out. And without further ado, we're going to get into this week's episode. We've had Laura on a bunch of times to talk about the policing in her area, specifically Canton, and just that south of Boston suburb shit. And we've talked about Sandra Birchmore, who was groomed, and we believe she was murdered by the people that groomed her, these cops. They definitely had inappropriate relationships with her that should be dug into, and of course it's not. So the DA, the FBI, all these people are intertwined. And that leads to Karen Reed, who is currently on trial, and everybody is mesmerized by the case. We're not here to do a true crime episode about this, but we want to talk about this phenomenon because it has everything. It has incompetent cops, petty gang-like feuds, that Canton police, law enforcement, along with any of their friends that are in the FBI, the ATF, any of that stuff, they run that place like a gang. And the families act like little mafia families within the gang. So Laura is a little more well-versed with that side of the state. So that's why we kind of had her on. Plus, she's the one who really brought Sandra Birchmore to our attention. And there's so many overlapping factors. Wouldn't you say that, Joanna? Sorry, old habits die hard. Laura, wouldn't you say that?
I would like to add, though, that and I think you would agree with this, Spence, is that when you're talking about the police, you're talking about, I don't care if it's local, state, federal, they're all intertwined. And especially when you're looking at like a local area, like say my district, Canton on down, through maybe, I don't know, Attleboro or something, but oh my God, it's like They socialize almost exclusively with each other.
It's very incestuous. I've been kind of paying attention to it, obviously through the written media, Boston Globe. Everybody, WBUR, Boston Magazine did the piece on tangentially related stuff a couple weeks ago. We'll get into that later in the episode. But my opinion is there's no attention to this tragic story about a young person that was vulnerable as a youth, didn't have like a strong family unit, and was groomed by the Explorer program
and passed around like,
yeah.
like
And these guys are still working, doing various, I'm sure some of them have bounced around as the law enforcement shuffle goes. It doesn't really matter, again, like I said, we're not a true crime show. And this brings me to my first big piece of today. Anybody listening to this, please, I am begging you all to stop indulging in true crime. It's not seeing the system for what it is. You're focusing on one story. It's salacious. It operates. You think you're like, when you're listening to it, we're holding the powers that be accountable for like being bad at their jobs. What it's reinforcing is they just need more resources because they don't have, or this could happen to you. You could just end up gone, disappeared. And all these things are true, especially if you're indigenous or a marginalized person or a woman in this country or trans. Yes, all these things can happen. But these true crime shows, which all the Eastern Mass people on TikTok and stuff are becoming true crime freaks in real time about Karen Reed. Why? White woman. That's the point. White woman who's in the
from a lot of money, it seems, and
relative, a lot of money.
Yeah,
a
lot of
relative, but yes,
connections. Yeah,
compared to me, she's got resources. That's it.
Absolutely, at least petty bourgeoisie.
And
yeah,
the networks, of killing people. And, we're finding out all about that the victim of this crime, whoever killed him, whoever covered up, doesn't really matter. We're seeing that everybody in this involved in this case, and there's like 25 people, like all you should see.
It's like
and it's very incestuous. It's very petty. It's about like you kissed a girl. Like these are grown-ups with guns and badges and their families, and like likely their daddy's daddy was a slave catcher.
And they're fighting with Turtle Boy on the internet. It's
oh yeah, and
like, that's what it is. It's like there you go, a fascist circular firing squad right there, right?
Right. And Turtle Boy, for those
really, come on.
Not familiar with who Turtle Boy is. His name's Aiden Kearney. You can Google him. He's I guess he calls himself a journalist. I don't really care about him personally. I don't pay much attention to him. He's a fucking circus. He's a broken clock. He happens to be right about there being problems and malfeasance in this case. Whether his story, Karen Reed's story, or the prosecution story is true, to me, it doesn't really matter if you pay a little bit of attention. You just see that these are all literally self-involved CYA, cover your ass people. That's all they care about. They're not community builders. Turtle Boy, he's been reputed and like snickered at by actual, mainstream journalists, have kind of made him a punching bag, which has only fueled his fire and his base. But now they're posting, because of all his attention he brought to the Karen Reed, and there may actually be some malfeasance here, and it's salacious, and it's a pretty white lady. It's like lightning in a bottle. And in this, he got a piece in the Boston Magazine. It was like almost 8,000 words, glossy photos, big spread about him. And he said it the quiet part out loud. If you ask me, he said something to the effect of, "I'm going to get rich. I'm going to become known." These people aren't here for justice. It's the same.
No, they're not.
True crime people, you're not here for justice. You're telling us who you are. I don't believe a word you have to say because you don't really give a fuck about what happened. You just care about you being the center of attention and you getting the clicks, you getting the money.
It is. And it's very reactionary. Both sides of it are very reactionary. And to see them battling it out, it's kind of like, it'll blow your mind.
And a
Uh,
silver lining with all this is there's supposedly a federal investigation ongoing still. I don't know, but doesn't the silver lining could be enough dirt and mud gets slung, we might get some semblance of justice for Sandra.
something.
'Cause
Well, that's my hope, because what really bothers me about all of the attention on the Karen Reed case, which I kind of view as like, man, I really don't care that much about the Karen Reed case, is that it's sucking all this air out of like the real tragedy that's occurred, and you know how dangerous that was, and like they're still walking around like, you know,
yeah, and how I got
no real consequences, you know. Yeah, they lost their jobs, but like, you know, they've gone on with their lives. It's really disturbing, and I think that maybe, you know, they're playing into this because they don't want attention on Sandra's case. And I know that her family's lawsuit is starting to like, you know, they're starting to produce filings here and there, you know, like, um, you know, I've seen a few things on it. So they're starting to get the ball rolling in that.
and you're talking
they're
about Sandra Birchmore
the
that
Sandra Birchmore case, because I feel like this whole Karen Reed circus, because you can aptly call it an absolute circus.
absolutely it's a clown show.
It's a mess. Has sucked the air out of that, and I think that is like, you know, rather than this Peyton Place case is, you know, how I like to kind of refer to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um,
What do you mean by that?
I mean, like, from the true crime fan base on
Yeah.
both sides. Um, it's wild. Like, nobody's willing to look at like any hard piece of evidence and go, you know, or they don't care about that. It's not about true crime or investigation or any of that. People are dug in, and like to the point where they will like deny reality.
Yeah, and for me,
I mean, and it's like, no, the cops really did a really shitty investigation. That was fucked up.
that's kind of the
You
point.
know? Right.
Either way, like let's say she's in on it, right? She's not.
Yeah.
Like, let's even say she does. They do a shitty police work. Somebody has to get tried. It sounds like their relationship was not strong. It sounds like there's a lot of just these people have based on some of the testimony I've seen from the officers, they're all texting each other's girlfriends and wives, and they're all playing these games, being flirty. And these people are monogamous. They're not polyamorous. They should
Yeah.
consider it, but they're not mentally mature. They're not emotionally mature enough to even have that conversation. But all
And
these,
the same can be said too of like, that's true. And you can see the same stuff kind of stuff going on in the Turtle Boy sphere.
oh yeah, he's
It's insane. It's, you know, that's,
girlfriends on the side that is he's embarrassing his wife. Me personally, I don't know what
and
they're.
I think it bears like paying attention to, that there are like a lot of cops that support Turtle Boy and his version.
Mm-hmm. Well,
There are more cops on the other side though, you know, but like, there are a good gaggle of cops in there and retired cops. So what I look at this as is kind of like how I view January 6th. It's kind of a fascist circular firing squad, and everybody's made a circus out of it. That's what it is to me.
yeah. Unfortunately, like none of this is unprecedented. I mean, this like everybody acts like this is a crazy thing. No, this is policing in the modern days. This is what it's about. It's about they don't care about justice. They care about tying things up in a nice, neat bow, and moving on. If they even they're loath to quote unquote work, but sometimes things get so big they kind of have to, and that's why the feds are investigating too. It's like it's become such a headache, and they're gonna just pin it on somebody or something. Like
Someone's going to go down. I don't know who it's going to
feds,
be.
the feds don't get involved unless they're really sure they can charge somebody. And when their conviction rate on when they charge the feds specifically
I know.
99% or something absurd. So I don't know. I don't really care.
I know.
I just want people.
Because like it's one of those situations where it's really difficult to pick a side. Because like I said, it's back the blue on either side of that equation.
Right.
Yeah. Turtle Boy, if you recall, was a big back the blue rally organizer, during the Floyd uprising.
Oh yeah.
He
Thinks he's at best, I call the broken clock, but at best he's we need to get rid of the bad cops. And it's like, bro, that doesn't work because
no, and they know it doesn't work. Yeah.
Defines who's bad. Like that's irrelevant. Like by your admission, then I don't know, like half these cops that are your little moles that feed you information are good. And it's like, that's not good either, man. They're breaking protocol. It's a bad cop.
Yeah.
What?
I know it.
None
I know it
makes any sense. Like, and I'm not arguing for the state, but just like your logic.
You know what I think? Yeah, this is like intercop war or cop world war. And it's a circus, and it's kind of funny to watch it go down, actually.
And the judge is somehow tied up with it. Like she's somebody.
I don't know.
These friends, like, dude, these circles are so tiny. Like everybody involved. So if you have cops on either side of a jury case, the DA or the judge or the bailiff, everybody in that room, it's like 2 degrees of separation from each other.
I know it. But then and opposite sides of the courtroom too.
Yeah, and how can it just be done up and up?
Yeah. It's a big mess.
I think if we're gonna throw our true crime hats on, though, like you said before we were recording, you think she did it.
I do think she did it.
I don't.
I think she did it only in that, like, I think it's clear that he never went into the house. I believe the veterinarian when she said there was no dog stuff on there. And I think what happened, and this is just my feeling on it, and like, I don't really care. I don't think that anybody should go to prison for any crime. And I'm not wishing any kind of bad thing on anybody. But I think what happened here is that they were arguing, and I think she probably got mad and had a few drinks and probably hit him by accident. And it spiraled from there. I think that when she had said something like that at the scene, or so they say, I think that if she had done that, she probably would have gotten like a suspended sentence, some kind of vehicular crime.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that with the Turtle Boy addition to this, I think that's where it spun out of control, because yes, he got a lot of things right in his reporting. And the investigation is a mess. It's ridiculous.
There was like chain of custody issues.
All kinds of shit. And
the Canton chief was like going in the middle of the night to a place where the evidence area where the car was, where the cameras weren't working or the footage was just stuff like that, like footage from the Canton town hall.
I just think of it though. I think of it this way as like the easiest, I look for like the simplest thing that probably happened. And it was probably they had been out. They were not getting along. I wasn't in their world, but that's what's everybody's saying. They didn't get along. She had too much to drink. And, maybe she hit the wrong pedal.
Well, one of the officers that John didn't get along with, I forget his name. I think it's Higgins. They all look the fucking same to me.
You can't even keep them straight.
So in their Higgins, there's like, multiple family members with the same last name. There's like 3 families and multiple family members from the family. Some as young as like 18, who's like known for being plastered drunk all the time. It's a total fucking mess, like everything about it. But the thing I thought about was apparently they had text messages they read into the record where he and Karen were, for lack of better word, testing the waters on a little flirtation. I don't know if it was flirtation straight up or sexting, but then she kind of decided I'm gonna cold shoulder this, and it's like the way I read it was like she was mad at her boyfriend. She wanted to like
It was kind of like an impulse to get
yeah,
back, like
get back,
revenge.
because that's what you do when you're in let's face it, cops are abusers
Yeah.
on a whole. So it's safe to assume John probably, you know, wasn't a great guy. He's a cop, so that's why we say no flowers for class traitors when they die.
There are no good cops.
Yeah, so unfortunately, but this whole thing's a mess is the point. And
it is, it's a circus, and
our Massachusetts government and our judicial system so fucking gross. Everything about it.
Is.
It's just like, I don't know. Sidebar, we've been dealing with Joanna and I and Bridget, my wife. We've all had different things we've had to reach out to our state senators and reps with. And holy shit, man, like their offices do not know what the fuck's going on. They don't know the process. They're saying something was passed, but it's like, no, there has to be another thing that happens because our system is so convoluted on purpose. And meanwhile, like,
because that's not what they're there for. And I think since Gaza has really brought this out, I think that people are starting to realize, they're not here for our benefit.
Absolutely not.
I know there's still a lot of bootlickers out there, but I think more and more people it's really starting to hit home.
Well, I get worried about people like, coming to a similar or becoming of the cognitive dissonance shaking a little bit. And I get worried that they go with, like, we're seeing a lot of people saying like APAC owns our government. And it's like, I understand why you would think that. And I understand
that's how it rolls though.
You see all this money, but the reason you can't just outright say that is because the next step is Jews run the world.
Right.
The reality is Israel is our attack dog, and APAC is how we launder money to make the politicians do it.
I know that.
So it's like, say it's like, oh, Israel's controlling. It's like, no, dude, we're the empire here, and they're our vassal state.
That's right.
Death Star in the Middle East, like
that's right. And that's where like, and I think you saw this like during the Occupy movement too. That's how you see a lot of like third positionists weasel their way in.
Right.
Left movements, anti-war movements, especially.
The Jimmy Dore, Jackson.
Yeah, like, Jackson. You thought they used to be like, Ron Paul 2012 people, Ron Paul people.
Oh, yeah.
And you see them, a lot of that too, in the anti-police movement, I believe, too. You see a lot of that.
Oh, yeah.
But
I mean, during this Gaza thing, or even when I've brought, on Twitter, because Twitter is a fucking cesspool. But I love that. It's the perfect encapsulation of humankind. You see some wonderful things and some stupid, really mind-bending.
I'm gonna grab another water because I get.
Yeah, do what you gotta do. I can rant for a second here. So
yep, I can hear you.
But yeah, the every now and then when you say like free Palestine, or you're pro Hamas, or the anti-Semites agree with you, and first of all, yeah, fuck them. There's a lot of people that are anti-cop because they're anti-Semites because they think the Jews run the cops. Like, I've heard some shit. When I'm just like, nah, dude, it's just we're in the largest plantation that's ever existed, and some of them are better than others. And the borders aren't for keeping people out; they're for keeping people in.
Right. Right.
So, right. Because it works both ways, right? And I know because I have family members that have been had red flags and they've been told no, and then for 5 years they're getting harassed by the IRS over and over again, and I can conclusively say I can never 100% sure know what somebody I love is up to, but I'm 99% sure in one specific case that was not the case at all. I'm like 99.999. Like, and they'll just fucking make your life miserable. So fuck borders, fuck the U.S. government.
Yeah.
But yeah, the problem is there's a lot of people that agree with me, but they also want to like marry 12-year-olds.
I know it. I know it. Oh, yeah, I
I'm not
know it.
saying there can't be rules and regulations.
I know.
How
And
we
they don't believe in like, food safety regulations and like consumer protection laws, which, if you're going to be in capitalism, which God, we got to get rid of that.
I used to
But
freak
like,
people out as a butcher because I would say I hate the USDA to like our customers. It was like a small butcher shop, and I would say like I fucking hate the USDA. They'd be like, because they think I want to do some sketchy ass shit. It's like no. They like the existence and their policies and procedures and regulations are to kill little businesses, literally to strangle you to death. It's not
yes,
possible. You have to be this ridiculous machine to make it worthwhile.
right.
And they've killed all the slaughterhouses, and this is where, and it's like centralizing your food system is fucking stupid. It should be completely decentralized.
Yeah.
Because
And I think they know it. They know that they just don't care.
they just don't care because it's about the bottom
They
line.
do not
They don't
care.
like-
I saw a graph earlier this morning when I was putting, it's my life. I'm so busy. Like I'm doing, the 2 jobs. I got the campaign. Life is kind of, going to be chaotic this summer. But, you know, yeah,
it's just,
it's mess. We are just,
it's a
every day. Oh, COVID, with the COVID, we're having more infections per day with wastewater than we were like a year ago. Like
Just
almost double.
stop
And like,
testing, Laura. If you just like as Trump said, just stop the testing. And it's not to get too macro here, but it is hilarious how Joe Biden today is announcing like he's doing executive orders akin to Trump's failed Muslim ban, like using the same.
I know it. I know it.
And it's
I
just
know.
like, dude, we don't even need Trump to do Trump policies. Biden will fucking get it done. Like this man is a creature of this system, and he's literally everything he campaigned on bullshit.
It was. It was like, and I can't
It's
believe.
I thought we'd get one thing. I figured, some people would get relieved of debt, and there's been a little bit, but like, okay, that's nothing. That's like the bare minimum. Those people were
I
probably,
thought he would do at least the marijuana.
yeah. Then to deschedule it and not make it decriminal,
Yeah.
like everything about it's like unreal, unbelievable, and
But like everything is just like, fuck you. I'm going to go ahead and go even more Trump. How's that?
yeah,
I didn't think it was possible to be worse. I didn't think it was possible to be worse than Trump's COVID response.
Oh, it's
And lo and behold, here we are, right? And Biden is worse. Blows my mind. That's basic public health.
mm-hmm.
That tells me that you, as a party, and you support the Democrats, you don't support a functioning public health system. Period.
They haven't rebuilt the pandemic response team that Obama and he built.
I know.
Rebuilt the one that Trump took down. They built it. It's like, come on, man. Like even things you've done in the past.
I know it.
Like,
I know it. I know it.
yeah,
I know it.
And he has a. We're not talking about this, but it needs to be mentioned. He offered up, and this is not deja vu. The Safer America plan is the crime bill all over again. The '94 crime bill. It's the same, like in the opening, statement about it and public, press release. It's like the same verbiage as shit he was saying back then. It's like, holy fuck, where am I? When did 1994 return? Is Tupac?
I know. Know it.
So yeah, but back to the local stuff. More cops isn't going to solve this, Joe Biden. This Karen Reed shenanigans. This is a cultural issue, and not even a cultural issue. It's a systemic issue. This is who they are. When they tell you who they are, believe them. This isn't an isolated case. They have a lot of power. They almost, I think, if they did do something that's not what they are accusing her of, which could be a whole spectrum of things, right? So let's just leave it open. I don't know what happened. It just goes to show you how much power they have and how they can make shit go away. I mean, the chief of police can just access the evidence room whenever he wants. when he knows there's a conflict of interest in the people investigating.
Well, I mean, you look at Divine. He
Remind
gets
everybody.
demoted. He gets demoted for like ridiculous, creep behavior, and right away,
Remind
they
the
put him in charge of kids.
So remind everybody who Divine is.
Oh, the Sandra Birchmore case, Stoughton PD, but it's an incestual system.
Mm-hmm.
So it's yeah. And
Yeah,
he was the one that ran the Explorer program.
right. Okay, so that's the tie-in. So Divine is the groomer in chief.
Yeah.
Probably gonna sue me for that. Allegedly.
Yeah. We had trouble with him on this before. Let's put him in charge of the Explorer program. I mean, come on, right?
Like, in my opinion, the guys that become cops,
Oh, they're awful people.
especially the kids at football practice. I played football when I was, in middle school. We're always the kids during the tackle drills that wanted to just hurt their own teammate. And not even like, even if the coach would admonish it, they just wanted to do, because they were bigger than the person. Like, just I'm gonna clean your clock. And it's like, even I had coaches that weren't cool with that, and they would do it anyways. They don't fucking care.
No.
And I swear to God, all those guys grew up to be cops or some version of a cop, something cop-like. I don't, security.
Yep. No, they do. I mean, you're absolutely right. It's a mindset. Like, I can't imagine in this day and age that one could go and become a cop and not realize what you're going into. Like, what kind of a fucked up fascist cult-like horrific institution it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows at this point.
I would hope.
I think they've kind of lost the hero.
Well,
there's a lot of hero worship of cops after 9/11. And I think that some of that has, gone in the opposite direction. Not enough, but enough so that they don't feel like they're worshipped centers of attention. Because like you said, they were always that kid in high school or on the football team. They
don't deal with consequences very well.
No, and I don't think they like not being, regarded as a hero by, the general public.
And that's okay, guys.
Yeah.
You too can be a hero by waiting a second longer at a stop sign to let somebody cross the street. You too can be a hero by holding the door open for somebody.
Right.
Imagine a gun to be a hero, everybody. You can help somebody on the side of the road, ask them if they need.
I think the other problem with it that is, and I'm glad you brought this up and we got into this, since 9/11 and a lot of the hero worship of the cops that happened. I think it really kind of escalated then.
Yeah, I remember, you're obviously older than me. I turned 14 right before 9/11. So I remember shows like Cops, and even when I was watching Cops, I remember thinking I remember talking to my friends about this, and not in an in-depth way because we're 12, but being this seems weird, right?
Yeah.
Why this seems it's uneasy. And now I would just call it snuff porn. I'm that shit's weird. I don't want to watch, rabid dogs biting accused people.
I know it. And that's honestly, that's what it is, right?
But yeah, the cop worship, I've only known this life, every show being called cop. But it you can go back since the 50s where they've been whitewashing cops on TV forever. But the through line here is true crime podcasts and true crime or blogging or whatever. Listen, I'm fascinated.
Control.
I get tunnel vision on stuff. I'm not here to shame if you're interested, but making content and money off it, it's propaganda, and it's really unethical. Don't fucking do it. I don't care how intentional you are. I have a red line on it. Please don't do it. But that said, it's your world. You live in it. You're probably not listening this far into our podcast if you're ready to hear that message. So I guess, I want to pay attention to Sandra Birchmore and the Karen Reed case, because cop malfeasance is everywhere. So I want to, but it's really gross and telling, and we need as a society to call it out when we see it. It's like, this is just a white woman, middle class, has some resources. At best, like, her boyfriend was killed and she doesn't have him anymore, or worse, she did it. And regardless, we pay all this money for these cops, and they don't know their fucking ass. They
Who
don't.
goes to an after party in your 50s? I don't understand that.
Well, I'm not here to shame how y'all get.
No, but like I just kind of like I'm so tired all the time. I mean, really, I'm in my 50s and I'm just like after parties after the bar. It's just too much.
Yeah, I mean, and there's clearly a culture of drinking in cops. Like
Yeah,
that's another.
that's my point. Yeah.
And the other thing is, yeah, they're still treating it like they're in high school. But the only defense the prosecution has is inept police work, is why this picture is incomplete. At best, that's the best it looks. And it's like we spend 30 to 40% of our budget, plus all the donations they grift off the community, plus all the other bullshit, civil asset forfeiture, where they're using cars they confiscated to fucking entrap people, like all the shady shit these motherfuckers do, the selling of guns, the selling of fentanyl, the bringing it into the prisons, all this stuff.
Oh, that police union chief that was trafficking fentanyl for
Oh yeah,
years.
San Diego.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess they're gonna try to let her plea,
Of
you
course.
know.
She's gonna rat somebody out. She's gonna rat her supply line out, and
Yeah.
whatever. But the point is, these fucking people, man. It's like, at best, you're incompetent, and that's why this looks so bad. And it
Yeah.
looked like, you see how this like undermine, like, they don't care how this undermines confidence in other people's trials. It's like when you find out all the drug lab stuff was tainted, it's like, how many people were sent to jail with to
And
get.
how many people in an office probably heard whispers about that stuff and knew about it, throughout the workplace,
They
the
all
justice system, they probably all had, a lot of people probably have at least heard
right.
of this stuff.
Well, and the scenarios you hear about I think it was it Jackson, Mississippi, where they found the unmarked graves, the pauper's grave, or
Yep.
a crime scene. They found a crime scene, and there's supposedly a lot more than what they even reported. I think it was like a couple hundred, and it's really over 1,000 for the last 20 years alone. Anyways, how this works is one guy fucks up, something goes too far with a homeless person or a prostitute or a sex worker, I should say, or anything like that. They recruited another guy that they did a favor for. And then you're kind of blood bonded, like your blood oath, like, I go down, you go down. So I think that's how this all has to work. Like, that's the only way I can think of. And it's like very instinctual to them, it seems. Like, the idea of getting your story straight was a big thing the defense is trying to push. And there's text messages to corroborate that. And it's just like, man, this is a condemnation of everything. this whole case. And then meanwhile, Sandra Birchmore, a young person whose life was taken away, and their baby, she was pregnant at the time.
And I mean, since they started abusing her as a child,
A child abuse victim, yeah.
right, to the age of 23 when she died, it's like, I don't know how this isn't, getting the attention like the Reed case gets. And that kind of makes me wonder, about the coverage of it. But
It's classism.
yeah,
They don't give a shit that a poor kid died.
no, they really don't. Yeah.
Like you said, they used her and they threw her away, and that's what happened to Sandra. And we don't need it to be. I personally don't need something to be adjudicated. I'm just confident that police abuse people. It's like, it's Pride Month, so happy Pride to everybody. but they always say it's the drag queens or the trans people or this stuff doing the sexual assault. No, it's cops and fucking priests.
Yeah, it's people that usually are in a position of trust in some way or another. Police.
It's
Um,
fucking. I think
yeah.
it's priests mostly, but like cops with access to children. So
And priests, yeah.
SROs, school resource offices, gotta go. There shouldn't be a fucking freak with a gun that's
No.
on punishment because he can't be trusted out on the streets. So we'll put him in a school.
And the excuse for the fact that they don't ever stop a school shooting.
I love how they're
You're putting you're sending the cops into the schools. Oh, we need these SROs. They can't even stop a school shooting.
They don't want to.
And every time there's a school shooting, oh, we're gonna hire more police. Why?
Why?
It's been decades. They've proven it over and over and over and over and over again.
So when did Columbine happen? 97, 98, somewhere around there, 99 maybe?
I was in New Hampshire.
Probably 99.
It was in the late 90s, 98 or 9, I think.
So I'm 12 years old ish. So my whole life has been this: we need more cops in schools because these shootings keep happening. So we went from I don't remember a world without school shootings, to be frank with you, or at least on such a consistent scale. Maybe it was before, it's just not reported. As we know, lots of massacres have happened in mainland United States or Turtle Island. Tulsa Race Massacre, like, just didn't get reported. Like, people just didn't talk about it. So, yeah. These massacres, what do you call a massacre? And these school shootings are massacres for sure. But yeah, it was always been more cops. I've never seen a police force deal with a shooter unless a bunch of people have been killed first, and then maybe.
Right. And weigh that against all of the harm they're doing in the schools. Like, you cannot open, Google it every day. There's like 10 new stories of this happening.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Cops and
it's just not a good idea. When I was a kid in school, you wouldn't have even thought of having the police in the school. No. They came for like an assembly at the beginning of the year. But no, they didn't have an office in the school, or, there's no such thing as an SRO.
I mean, we all know the American public education system was built to simulate a prison, is to get us used to regiment and like being told when we go to the bathroom when you can eat, all that stuff. It's a conditioning program. It's not educational program per se. It's more of a conditioning program. So the next step is just put the guys with guns in the building. And the irony is, in a fucking real jail, like a real prison, there are no guns on the floor. Like, the guards don't have them, and neither do the incarcerated folk. So none of it makes any sense, is the point. And I guess this is probably a good spot for us to round up, and then I think it's time for ghoulery and tomfoolery. Before we get to that, and Laura is not privy, so you're going to get her genuine hot take. But before we do that, I'm going to give a shout out to www.theweedout.com. Go there, check all the links of anything we talked about today. You can always go to our link tree and our social medias. Please like, subscribe, and follow. Feel free to reach out. We had a couple good episodes the last couple weeks, so if this is you haven't checked in a while, please check out the episode we did with Congressman McGovern. A couple of months ago, we did a panel with the Workers' Party candidates throughout the state of Massachusetts. So check that out. Shout out to Laura's one of the candidates running for statewide office. Laura, you want to give a quick pitch?
Yes, I am running in the Bristol and Norfolk district for the state Senate seat against Paul Feeney. And I've just finished. I got all my signatures gathered. They're with the state, but everything's all set. Should be on the ballot. We are currently really working hard to get Brandon the signatures that his campaign needs. He has until the end of July. We need 10,000 for Brandon.
And where can they go to help?
Get in contact with us on our website and ask us, to send you papers. We can send you papers. You can go. I usually go once a week. We stand out in front of a grocery store, ask people And it's the tedious part of doing the work is, things like that. But
And I'm
that's what,
sure, Joanna can get into the weeds more of this with anybody. So I'm not very confident talking about it. But the election, the balloting process and every process of it we could spend hours talking about its deficiencies and or roadblocks and or just undemocratic elements to our
like, we don't have the kind of money to go paying
Yeah.
teams of people to go out and get your signatures for you, and they guarantee it.
Like Jill Stein currently, a couple states she didn't make the deadline, but RFK did because he had a fucking war chest.
Yeah,
Has a war chest relative to Jill Stein, so he's getting ballot access simply because he can afford to pay people $38-40 an hour to walk around and make some quick money and get signatures for him. They don't even have to give a shit about his platform.
right. Yeah, and then
Get you. I think everybody should have ballot access. So even if I disagree, unless you're a fucking Nazi, and even GOP, maybe tell me a little bit more about the platform. But even then, I don't know. I don't think this you should have the signatories. This is crazy. Like, there's got to be another way to like figure out. I don't know. Again, not my field. I'm swimming out. I know cops. That's what I know. So
oh man, yeah. So the cops,
maybe that's an episode for the future. You and Joanna, or Joanna, you and somebody else could talk about that, because I just know it's fucked up.
it is. We both know it's fucked up.
Explain how
Selling on bullshit. All of them are on their bullshit around here.
I can tell you. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I could tell you that I know how the electoral college is fucked up, but yeah, the local stuff, the nitty gritty, like you're mentioning, every state is different. Every county is differently set up for different reasons. Some of it's okay, it is what it is, and yeah, it's just there's just so many ins and outs, so it's such a complicated topic. But without any further ado, we should get to ghoulery and tomfoolery.
All right.
It's a doozy. Shenanigans like always. Let me get the link. I got it from Twitter. Actually, it's from our old friend Greg Tony's.
Oh yeah.
I actually don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's an anarchist archivist, I guess is what he would call himself, where he archives all his crazy propaganda, cop stuff, and just in general, a way of referencing other fucked up things that happened in the past. It's a great archive. So they're on Twitter. I'm going to share the screen with you. And so the tweet comes from him. And you see it? So anyways,
yeah, for a long.
So today in hashtag propaganda, the old quote unquote blue lives matter, blue lives talking point is back. Quote, saying that professional violence workers of the state are bastards is a form of hate speech. He's obviously being tongue in cheek. He's responding to a tweet in a video of a chief saying a lot of violence against groups of people, whatever groups of people it is, by religion or ethnicity or otherwise, starts with words. Anti-police rhetoric is equally as ignorant as if it was against someone just because of their religion or their ethnicity. So this genius law enforcement representative who is breaking his uniform code on national TV, sitting at home, I'm going to describe him. He's wearing his uniform with his badge with a black bar over the badge, which typically covers up the badge number or at least obscures you. You're not supposed to modify your fucking uniform.
No.
I'm not even in the police. I'm not even in. But
I work at Shaw's and I can't modify my uniform.
Sure, but you were also in the military, correct? Like,
Yes, I was.
and
Yeah.
you know you can't do that. Like, I know
Oh,
you
yeah.
can't do that. You're not supposed to. It's defeats the whole point of having that insignia.
I
Uh,
know it.
anyways, regardless, so he's doing that on national TV. This is how you know this is a signifier of being a Nazi. Like, these are the cultists, these are the ideologues in policing when they do things like this, whether they're decals in their cars or um you know the things they may modify in their uniform, obscure their name, etc.
The whole thin blue line flag.
Yeah, that's a
You know,
slap in the face too. It's like I don't even give a fuck about that genocide rag, oh glory
no,
itself. But yo, if you can't say you care about this country and care about that flag and you'll die for that flag, and then fucking modify it,
like to put yourself up,
it's like,
it's
that makes.
so gross. It's like
And how am I the un-American one? Like, I'm
I
not saying
know.
I want to be the American one, but like
I know.
that shit makes. So, anyways, I'll you should definitely check out Craig's work. He's awesome. He lost his old account, which had like a decade worth of
Yeah. Yeah.
information archived. He got it nuked by Elon. Probably, I'm guessing because he's told somebody to fuck off over a genocide comment or something, because that seems to be how people are getting suspended on Twitter these days. But yeah, he is a great follow. Craig Toines, sorry, Craig. Uh, I will share it in the show notes so you can check out his tweet. And definitely, if you're on Twitter, give them a follow. It's great stuff, especially if you're in our show. You'll love a lot about what they talk about. So that said, cops claiming that this is hate speech. Please tell us your take, Flora.
It's and you know what, they a lot of times, if you notice the wording of it, it appeals to liberals and draws them in, and pulls them into the propaganda. And I think that's why you're seeing this true crime, like extremism. Can we call it that?
Sure, we can call it that.
But this is what I would call the Karen Reed case, a circus.
The Karen
And
Reed.
you were talking about the propaganda, the crime, right? The obsession with true crime. And that's exactly what it is. It's propaganda, and nobody has a better archive of it than Craig. Craig is awesome.
True.
You are correct.
And they've been a great they were part of the Occupy movement a decade ago, so they've seen some strategies work and fail, and there's a lot to be gleaned from people who have been through your elders, I guess, and vice versa. Like, be willing to share with the younger people. We all have to do this together. So I definitely always, because he's probably about 10 years older than me, so he's very like feels very older sibling coded when I read them. Um, but I'm like super grateful because I've learned so much from the stuff he posts about, and um, probably wouldn't be as aberrant a abolitionist without them. My thought on cops crying victim, it's a job. It's not, this is a simple pushback and fuck the journalist interviewing them for not saying this. Being born gay, being born black, being born a woman, being born a trans, non-binary, doesn't matter. That's not a choice. You can't take that shit off. When this world falls apart and we all turn against cops, you can burn that uniform and we'll never know you were a cop unless we knew you personally. It's kind of like in the Glorious Bastards when he says, like, we're going to give you something you can't take off, because we all know when you're defeated, you'll burn those clothes. And that's the reality. It's like, so you're not marginalized. This isn't hate speech. We're criticizing your job.
I know. You're not the victim. Yeah.
I was a butcher at a nose to tail butcher shop. I am in the fish business. I see dead carcasses for a job. That's what I do. Always have. It's kind of that's kind of my life is meat and proteins. But I've had people say some crazy shit to me. I'll be at a gas station. They'll see that I'm somehow involved in the fish business. They'll say some wild shit to me. Just a worker, just a regular guy. I'm nobody. And I'm just trying to make a living. And I work for decisions are made outside my control. So to take that vitriol on just like a guy, regular old guy, is weird, right? So these cops, like, dude, at the end of the day, I can just take this off and I don't have to deal with it. And yeah, it's weird. But like for you to like be sad because it's like, dude, we see people get murdered by y'all. Like we see it. We all know how we all have that feeling when your lights go off behind us, even if we're just trying to go home. Because at the very least, this is gonna fuck my night up. I'm gonna be late for wherever I was going. Like, and you know, it's never gonna be pleasant. And it's not because we're afraid we did a crime. And even if you did, you shouldn't be afraid of being killed on the side.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you murdered somebody. That's the state shouldn't have that power. And there's a reason everybody's gut drops, including cops. Cops admit to this shit. Former cops. Like,
yeah.
Like everybody admits this, that we're conditioned to be afraid of that fucking sound and the lights, and because there's a reason we're afraid. Because of the propaganda reminding us that they can kill us at any time.
Did you see that documentary Power on Netflix?
Is that the 50 Cent thing?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe he had a TV show. It doesn't matter. No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, I recommend it. And I got my son here and he wanted to watch it. So I said, all right.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. No, I haven't seen it.
It was surprisingly quite good for a mainstream movie about the police. They had the perspectives of like a black cop. And, he in the movie, he has a meeting with, black elders in the community. And like, try as he wanted to, he wasn't quite getting what they were saying, what their complaints were. It was and it just goes through the whole history of the cops, from being slave catchers and nothing good.
Yeah.
And how they tend to corral people that society deems undesirable, whether it's the homeless. We're seeing that with the swing, certain neighborhoods, low income, get policed more. And that's what they do. They corral people.
Yeah, they're here to manage the surplus population, as I'm sure how they say it in their fancy cocktail parties.
Oh, it's awful. Yeah.
They do. That's what they do. Very little of it is anything good. Every now and then they save a kitty and make a big deal about it.
Yeah. But I really think what needs to happen, we need to stop this whole SRO cops in the schools.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to be like priority number one. It does nothing positive, and it's really not good. It's dangerous.
And my final thought to anybody listening, I have a challenge for y'all listening. You can do this challenge in any way you want, but I'll give you an example. How you can join the fight and how you can stop this shit. A lot of it is the programming we get from propaganda, and propaganda is very pervasive. It's very pervasive. The kitten in the tree story, Paw Patrol for kids, cops. Anytime somebody talks about how they like that show, just be like, I respectfully understand that you may like the story, but that stuff needs to be fucking no. That's no good, dude. No good. And I don't know, pick your hill to die on, but I think if you could radicalize your friends to at least see the systemic nature of this media programming that we get and how it works to create biases in favor of state sanctioned violence. That's my challenge. Like we gotta take it to the streets, so to speak. Because it starts with us. We don't have to listen to this programming anymore, not to be all matrixy, but you can step out anytime. It's just you have to choose to do so. And it doesn't mean you can't have joy anymore. It doesn't mean everything's ruined. I can attest to that. Sometimes something will be so absurd, and because I have this framework, I can just rant about how silly this shit is, and it's still kind of funny, like the Top Gun movies is my go-to. It's like, listen, man, that shit's fun. And technically my tax dollars paid for it. But the whole time I'm goofing on how like, oh, they're just justifying to go fucking shoot some unnamed people in the Middle East. But yeah, again, like I'm not gonna be out here promoting Top Gun. So anyways, my greatest happiness. Thank you everybody for listening into the Weed Out. Thank you, Laura, for joining us today. And that was
I
ghoulery.
would love to be back as soon as you'd have me back, Spencer.
Oh, I think we're gonna have you in the mix. We'll have other things to talk about. We just wanted to get an episode out, and election season's coming up. There's a lot's gonna happen, and there's a lot happening.
Yep.
As always, free Palestine. I didn't talk.
Free Palestine. Yes,
Free
yes, yes.
Congo, Sudan. Abolish capitalism.
Yeah,
This is an empire problem, not an individual country
that's right.
problem. All these things are connected. The IDF, policing here, prison systems, the same fucking 5 companies owning everything. It's all connected. And we have to take care of our least. So there's people experiencing genocide for resources. We have to think about them, and we have to put them first and listen to them. And that doesn't mean we can't walk and chew gum at the same time. We can also raise hell here in our neighborhoods. So keep weeding out the bullshit. That's my shout out to everybody. Challenge you to challenge propaganda anytime you can. And also take care of yourself. And Laura, thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Spencer.
And we look forward to doing it again. So next time, check us out, the Weed Out, weedout.com. And thanks for tuning in.
Hey, thank you. Good night.
Night.